Alright, Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, this is your brother Issachar coming back at you with another lesson. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem, Wakar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect and the 144,000 scattered across the four corners of the earth. Shalom to you. Alright, in today's lesson, we're going to go into Leviathan. Okay? Today's lesson, we're going to go into Leviathan. Alright, this is the time that we're entering. You know, plagues and pestilence. Okay, the Lord's about to plague America like the same way He plagued Egypt. Okay, with famine. You know, the ICBMs, that's a plague. Okay, there's a lot that's going to be happening here soon. You know, so today's lesson, we're going to go into Leviathan. All right, because, you know, the Most High Yahweh, He has a pet that is the top, you know, apex predator, and it's Leviathan. Okay, it's Leviathan. Job 41 and verse 1 on down. We're gonna get this this whole chapter. Okay, Job 41 verse 1 all the way down. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with the hook? Question mark. Okay, so right here, okay, the Lord is mocking. All right, he's like being sarcastic. Okay, he's mocking our enemies. Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. Okay. All right, so can thou draw Leviathan with the hook? So let's stop right there. All right, with the question mark. Why might that be? Well, because you know, back in the ancient world, you know, the ancient world, people fished with spears and nets. Okay, now people fish with hooks. You see? Or his tongue with the cord which thou lettest down. Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? All right. So the Lord is, you know, telling our enemies, Esau, Edom, okay, can you catch my beast? Can you catch my creature? You know, because it's not possible. All right, because you know, the so-called white man, he's full of pride. You know, he thinks, you know, that, you know, he can do everything. They think that they are God. Okay, 2 Thessalonians. All right, 2nd chapter. All right, so it's so the Lord is telling, all right, well, you know, hey, you think you're bad, you know, you think you're all that, catch my creature, Leviathan. All right, because that's Yahweh's personal pet. All right, verse 3, will he make supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? See that? Because Leviathan is not your ordinary creature. All right, it's not just some big old reptile. Okay. All right, he's not your ordinary creature out here. All right. Yeah, and the Lord's gonna release. And as these days that are approaching, remember, yeah, you know, we're entering, you know, persecution, betrayals. Yes, economic collapse, the mandate of the RFID microchip, which is the MOTB. All right, make no mistake. All right. Also the full bloom of World War III, which is brewing up right now. Okay. All right. But remember, the Lord has a lot that He's going to bring on this earth. Okay. Terrible storms. all right, behemoth. You know, behemoth are like, remember the so-called dinosaurs? All right, they still exist. All right, the Lord just has them hidden. All right, but they're around. The Lord has many things out there that this world has never seen. There it is. The ocean, for example. Okay, right? Scientists, Esau and these, scientists, these heathens, they tell you that they only discovered 5%. All right. So imagine everything else that's the unknown. Yeah, it's the unknown to you. You know, why is it unknown? Okay, let's answer that right now. Why is it unknown? Why can't they only explore 5%? All right. All right. Number one, it's because it's not your planet. Esau, Edom, and the heathen. All right. Remember, this planet is for the Israelites. Okay. So, if the so-called white man, if you guys are God and all that, why is there so much that is unanswered? How come there's so much that is unknown? How come there's places on the planet Earth where you can't even go? Because you have bounds that you can't pass. And that's scriptural. Okay, because you have restrictions. Remember, the Lord only gave our enemies temporary rulership. Okay, yeah, our enemies may not go there, can't go there, but the Lord, the angels, and soon the Israelites. Okay, once Yahushua gets here, okay, he's gonna be able to do all that. Go, to these different places. You see, because that's reserved for the Israelites. All right, so remember that, All right, verse 4. Will he make a covenant with thee? Meaning a contract. Okay, yeah, because Leviathan ain't gonna sell out. Will thou take him for a servant forever? Yeah, so the Lord, question mark again. So the Lord is saying, can you catch him and put him in a zoo? All right, you know how at these zoos, the animals, sometimes you just see them like kind of like just sleeping. They're just kind of there. Well, it's like, the animals are not supposed to be, in cages like that. People go to the zoo to go see those animals and stuff. Okay. All right. So remember that. Okay. These animals they're being they're locked up. Okay, because the animals not supposed to be like that. Imagine that. They got caught, taken from their place, their habitat, and then now they're just in a little cage, a little spot where people all day long just stare at them. Imagine. Will thou take him for a servant forever? Yeah, because the Lord's saying, all right, can you catch him and put him in a zoo? Leviathan, since you're so great to the so-called white man, since you think you're all this and that, go for it, try to catch him. See? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Verse 6, shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with bob irons, or his head with fierce spears? Okay. Lay thy hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. All right, so when Leviathan, okay, all right, comes out of the, he dwells at the bottom of the ocean, okay, where these heathens and Edomites cannot go. All right, so, he's down there, okay, yeah, he's down there. So this is something that when he comes out, okay, the Lord's telling our enemies, hey, just remember the battle, just remember, focus on him, don't even worry about nothing else, okay, because Leviathan's gonna tear stuff up out here, absolutely. Yep. Verse 9, behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? Right. Okay, because Leviathan is such a large creature, okay, that people are going to have heart attacks. Remember that movie, you guys ever out there ever see that movie -1? Okay, or remember like the old school films, Godzilla? Okay. All right. This is a very, you know, important detail. Okay. Verse 9. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? Okay, because people are going to be dropping dead just by seeing him. Okay, remember that movie -1, where the Japanese soldiers were so scared that they couldn't even shoot, you know, because they were so terrified at what they were looking at, you know. And Leviathan is much larger. Okay, he's much larger than that, but he's huge. You know, he's miles big, so you can understand. Okay, miles big. He's miles big. All right. Verse 10. None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Yeah, because you got to be, crazy to go against Leviathan. You know. All right. Verse 11. Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. Because this is the Lord's creation. Okay, the Lord created us, everything in the ocean, the planets. See? You know, remember, Yahweh gave the blueprint to Yahweh Shai. The angels and 144,000. All right? And, you know, they created, you know, the earth, this planet. All right? You know, the oceans, the mountains. Imagine all the animals out there. Okay? Imagine all the animals out there, all the insects. Okay? You know, all the fishes. All right? You know? And remember, this is just one planet. Okay? You know, there you heathen go lying again, saying that, you know, you're going to go to the moon and Mars. Okay? You heathens and Edomites are going to slavery. You know? Yeah, you guys are full of crap. You know, ain't nobody leaving this planet. You know, that's the thing. You know, our enemies can lie to the world, but we know what it is. You know, so that's why we just laugh at them. They can say whatever they want, but no one can't leave this planet. Okay, we don't care what scientist goes up there and says, "Oh, we can." They ain't going nowhere. Okay, they ain't going nowhere. You know, they're not gonna do a damn thing. This is why we laugh at our enemies. You know, because they just lie. You know. But remember, the Lord's very upset because they destroyed this planet, and they touched the apple of the Lord's eye. You know, so they're in trouble, big trouble. All right, they're in big trouble, major. All right. Verse 12. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment? Or who can come to him with his double bridle? Okay. Verse 14. Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth. Okay, so now this is going into how he looks. Okay, the details of how Leviathan looks. All right. Verse 14. Who can open the doors of his face? Okay. His teeth are terrible round about. Right, because he has just terrible teeth to look upon. You know, he's a very remember, Leviathan is made without fear. Okay. Verse 15. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. Okay, so you know he has scales on his back. You know, like Godzilla. You see? But there's so much. Here we go. The next verse. One is so near to another that no air could come between them. Yeah, so air can't even pass through. So that's how much he has back there. All right, on his back. No one. Verse 17, they are joined one to another. They stick together that they cannot be sundered. By his sneezings a light does shine. Okay? And his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. So what does that mean? Okay, because he has glowing eyes. Remember this, okay? Look at like a blue whale, for instance. Okay? You know, a blue whale. Okay, you know, that's just a big it's a big creature in the ocean, right? Right. Okay, but Leviathan, he has spiritual power. Okay, like a whale, yeah, it's big, you know, it can does certain things, you know, it's strong, you know, it's like pure muscle, but it don't have spiritual power. Leviathan, not only is it a huge creature, okay, that's miles big, but it also has spiritual power. Like these heathens show you in these Godzilla films. Okay, remember how it can spit out, you know, like concentrated fire, like lasers? Okay, that's Leviathan. That creature exists. It's real. Okay, this is why this world tells you, oh well, they only explored 5%. Okay, the other 95%, you know. And remember, the Lord knows. Yeah, it's only unknown to our enemies. Okay, but remember, this is our planet. Okay, yeah, these clowns may not know. Okay, remember that. You know. Okay. Remember that it's not their planet. All right, so this is why everything's so unknown. You know. You know, and that's the thing. You know, when they say they're gods, okay, but they don't even know what's on this planet. You know, but yet they're gods. You know, it's unknown. Yeah, to you clowns, to you Edomites and heathens, but not to Yahweh Shem Yahushua and the angels. You see, you know. So you, when our enemies talk, they speak. They're talking to themselves. You know, it's like, yeah, it's unknown to you retards, okay, but not to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. You know, they say, oh, it's the unknown. Yeah, to you. You know, to you, Trevor. You know, to you, Moab. But not to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Verse 18. By his sneezings a light does shine. His eyes are like the eyelids of morning. Right, because he has glowing eyes. You know, he has glowing eyes. Verse 19. Out of his mouth go burning lamps. Okay, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils go a smoke as out of a seething a part of cauldron. His breath, verse 21, his breath kindleth coals, and the flame goeth out of his mouth. There it is. Okay, because yeah, he can shoot out, you know, fire from his mouth. You know, like a good, you know, depiction would be that movie Godzilla. Okay, he has spiritual power. And his neck remaineth strength. Check this out. And sorrow is turned into joy before him. Right, because when Leviathan comes out here, okay, he's going to enjoy tearing up, you see all these metropolis, all these cities, everything that our enemies have, okay, Leviathan is going to destroy that with a smile, okay? Remember that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is a man of war. Okay, so yeah, these wacky tacky Christians, okay, these other Israelite congregations, you're going off. Okay, your information is false and incorrect. All right, yeah, it's incorrect. All right. Verse 23. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of nether millstone. When he raises up himself, the mighty are afraid. Okay, yeah, because soldiers are going to be terrified. All right, especially those that are in the Navy. Okay, you got front row seats. By reason of breakings they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the harpoon. He esteemeth iron. Oh, here we go. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. So this creature is so strong that iron is like straw to him. Okay, brass is like rotten wood. It's nothing to him. Nothing. It's nothing to him. All right, verse 28. The arrow cannot make him flee. Slingstones are turned with him into stubble. Okay, so the missiles. Okay, so when he comes out of the ocean, you know, Esau, Moab, okay, so-called white men, the so-called Chinese with their militaries, okay, they're going to be shooting their missiles at him, you know, with their tanks, their jets, whatever they got, right? Okay, so, you know, when they start shooting, all right, so when they start shooting their missiles at him, because they will, he's not going to flee, you know? Like right now, an animal, you know, if you shoot like at a leopard or something, you know, they'll kind of like, they'll go the other way or something, you know? But Leviathan, he just keeps on coming. Okay, he's a top apex predator. He's made without fear. You know, so it don't matter what our enemies try to do. You know, remember, sorrows turn into joy before Leviathan. You know, so and Leviathan is gonna enjoy tearing up our enemies, tearing up these cities and everything. Yep, see that? Remember, Yahweh Hashem El Shai is a man of war, but the majority of people in this world, they think everything's just, everything's just all love. You know, when remember Israelites, okay, we got over here by slave ships, but everything's all love. You know, get out of here. You know, get out of here. Get out of here. See, darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of the spirit. Yeah, because he's gonna be laughing. Okay. He's gonna be laughing when our enemies are trying to attack him. Sharp stones are under him. He spreads sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. Okay, so right there, the further deep you go into the ocean, the colder it gets, and the more pressure it gets. Okay, all right. So remember, he's at the bottom of the ocean. Okay, so imagine how cold it is, how much pressure there is. All right, and he's down there just chilling. See, he maketh the deep to boil like a pot, because he produces his own heat. He maketh the sea like a point of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. Would one think the deep to be hoary? Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right. Remember that he is made without fear. Okay, he's a top apex predator. Okay, on the planet Earth. Remember that. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. Who is the? Because Moab is prideful too. The so-called Chinese. All right, Leviathan's gonna tear their stuff up too. But also Edom, Esau, the self-proclaimed white man. Okay, because he's the one who's full of pride. Remember, the Lord's gonna bring this man down painfully. Remember that. Okay, so let's go to Psalms. Yeah, because it's not just Esau. These heathens. They're full of pride too. Ishmael. Psalms 104 and verse 24. O Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, how manifold are thy works. Okay? And wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy riches. Right. Okay? Because, remember, what's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson. He had that interview years ago. And he said, oh yeah, he goes, oh, there's he goes, hey, do you believe that there's a God? And he goes, me? He goes, no, he goes, there's just no evidence. Okay, this whole planet Earth is evidence. Okay, his dumb self is evidence. Human life. Okay, the planet Earth. You know? Oh, remember, all the insects, okay? All the animals, okay? All the birds, all the creatures in the ocean. Imagine that, you know, they all have details. Even to your fruits and vegetables. You know, it don't just happen. Okay, everything has details. You know? Yep. Everything has details, from a tree to a plant. You know, everything has details. You know, even the earth. For those of you that ever, you know, dug a hole, if you work in like construction or, you know, if you're around that type, you know, like just work around the dirt, you know, dig trenches, you know, holes. As you dig into the earth, there's different layers of soils. Okay, there's layers. Absolutely. Okay, this place, this place was created, okay, step by step. All right, that's in the book of Genesis, the first chapter. Okay, this is that's the book of Genesis, first chapter, verse 25. So is this great and wide sea, right? Because our enemies, the Edomites and the heathens, they don't even know what's down there. Okay, they tell you, all right, yeah, we only discovered 5%. Everything else is unknown. Yeah, to you clowns, you know? See? Huh? Wherein are things creeping innumerable. See, that means that you can't even count them. Because there's so much stuff in the ocean. Right. Okay, remember, our enemies say that they only discovered what? 5%. Okay, 5%. So imagine everything that's unknown, and you can't. First of all, if they can't even see it, if they can't even go to a certain destination, to a certain depth, okay, so they can't even count it. That's how much stuff's in the ocean. And remember, this is just one planet. Okay, there's other galaxies out there, different realms. You know. Remember, our enemies are in big trouble. Big trouble, big trouble. Okay, and they don't know all. Imagine the Lord created all this, and they're ready, and they're trying to fight the Lord. They're about to get a beat down like this world's never even seen. You know, Yahweh tells us through John the Revelator, Revelation chapter 18, it's only going to take Yahweh and the angels 1 hour to stomp out our enemies. 1 hour, 60 minutes. You know, absolutely, absolutely. Psalms 104 and verse 25. So is that great and wide sea. Because the ocean's amazing, man. You know? Just look at that. At itself. Look at all the different creatures and all that. You know? Is that just what? Just happened out of nowhere, and you got all this different layers, and the whole earth is like an ecosystem. But yeah, it just happened from a Big Bang Theory. Okay, it just shows you how full of crap our enemies are, you know? He's running out of lies. He's running out of lies, baby. Remember, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, he's on the ropes. He's on the ropes. He's on the ropes. You know? He's in desperation mode. You know, he's going down, he's going down. All right, so remember that, you know, when these leaders and scientists and all that say things like that, you know, remember that, you know. But remember, I thought they said that they were gods, you know, and all that. They're Mr. Know-it-all. See? Imagine. Just look at that, like, look at that. And now compare Esau's military to the Lord and the angels who created all that. They can't even go down there, not even if they wanted to. So you're telling me this man's not retarded? This man's about to get a beat down like no other. Big time. Look at how the Lord just destroyed Pharaoh's whole military, by using the water. Imagine this time the Lord's going to send Yahweh and the angels down here and activate the house of David with spiritual power? Huh? Shoot. Imagine that. Okay. Let's go again. Psalms 104 and verse 25. So is this great and wide sea, wherein are things creeping and innumerable, both small and great beasts. Verse 26, here's the point. There go the ships. Esau's military ships, okay? His destroyers, whatever he has, those aircraft carriers, okay? All right, there is that Leviathan whom thou hast made to play therein, okay? To play. See that? Because Leviathan's not gonna, is not gonna struggle against our enemies. Okay, he's gonna play with them. Okay, just to show you right there, if our enemies are just gonna be playtime for Leviathan, how much more with the gods on earth, the 144,000? Remember, the 144,000 are gods on the earth. They're not ordinary men. Okay, all right. Remember, our Lord, He has brothers. All right, remember that. Okay, remember that. All right, so if the Lord's, if Yahweh Shai's creature, if our enemies are going to be playtime, how much more for the Lord Himself, Yahweh Shai, and His angels. Imagine, it's about to go down out here. Remember that. That's why whatever, because our enemies are going to be able to, bring martial law, do stuff like that. But that's it. Remember, Yahweh Shai is going to be here with the angels. Remember, those of you that are part of the hopeful elect, you got help out here. You're not alone. You're not alone. All right, there go the ships. There is that Leviathan whom thou hast made to play therein. These wait all upon thee, that they mayest give them their meat in due season. Yeah, because they're waiting for the Lord's command. They're not all out of order. Okay, the angels are in order. Okay, the left hand side and the right hand side, and the animals, because they listen to the Lord. Not like Esau. Look at Trump and Elon Musk. Oh yeah, we're cool and all that. Now a couple months later, it's all, oh no, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, I'm gonna expose you. See, there's no loyalty here. Look at what Trump's doing with believe it was NATO, Europe. Okay, he's saying what? Get your own oil. See, they're not even cool with each other. Show you that Esau, Edom, he don't know how to rule. Okay, there's no loyalty. They're all about what? Money, themselves. See, but not the animals are gonna listen to the Lord, because they're in order. Okay, they're in order. Absolutely. So that's it on today's lesson. Okay, that's it on that's it on today's lesson. All right. Just keep learning out there. All right, and hold on to the Lord. Okay, because the Lord's all we got. You gotta remember that. You guys, you gotta put the Lord first. Okay, because our Lord is a jealous power. If you put your job or anything before Him, He'll take that from you. Remember that. Just put the Lord first. And everything else will fall in place. The Lord will make it happen. All right, and less than snap of a finger. All right, so with that, all praise to Yahweh Shai. On your feet, soldier. Until next time, Shalom.